Hi, everybody. Today I'm going to talk about some of the things that I found from doing some research in trends in technology for teaching English to speakers of other languages. So the trend that I observed and which I was most interested in was using new internet technologies known as Web 2.0 to extend learner output, both in the classroom and out of the classroom. I was especially interested in out of the classroom work. Some of the things that I found in the research were lots of use of Twitter, both as a in-class discussion tool, as an assessment tool, as an out-of-class assessment tool. Some interesting work with collaborative writing with Google Drive, having groups in class construct an essay and then editing it together. I looked at a lot of work that sort of looked at the benefits and the potential problems with posting student work online. A couple different studies noticed that students have trouble sort of separating out the idea that their work's going to be stolen with the benefits of collaboration. And then there was just a lot of different vocabulary applications, especially using mobile apps. And then for the journals that I looked at, I used Computer-Assisted Language Learning, Computers in Education, TESOL Arabia Perspectives, Journal of Applied Learning Technology and System, among others. Okay, so most of the studies were qualitative, using a lot of different scales, Likert scales to talk about, to seek student perspectives and student opinions. Most of the studies took place in English as a foreign language contexts. Most of the studies use university students, and most of the studies had the same L1 among the students. So what is Web 2.0? What does that mean? So Web 2.0 refers to sort of the new internet where a lot of the content is user-generated. A lot of the software has now gone to the cloud, so it's now browser-based software. You can think of Google Drive or Prezi, Screencast-O-Matic, kind of. And now there's a lot of interactivity where users are interacting with content and making comments and posting links, liking. And then most exciting is sort of how now browser-based applications can talk to each other and they can be used amongst each other. So your Google Calendar can interact with your Gmail. You can use Dropbox between different devices, etc. And this has all been done through advances in technology, both hardware and software, and then server farms now being everywhere, so data is much cheaper. And then connection speeds are also just much faster. So all of these things enable Web 2.0 technologies. And then just really quick, just to compare what was the internet before. The content was generally generated by companies or tech-savvy individuals. The connection speeds were really slow, so we had flash instead of video. YouTube was not prevalent during this time, and web pages were static, so you couldn't really interact with them. Everybody basically saw the same web pages, no matter what. Okay. Now, so within Web 2.0, as far as communication is concerned, there's two basic distinctions. The first is synchronous communication. You can think of that as like Skype chat rooms where when I communicate, another person can respond immediately, just like a telephone call or a real-life conversation. And according to the research, this is beneficial for high proficiency learners because it stimulates faster production. There's more of a cognitive demand on the learner. And that contrasts with asynchronous communication, where users post something and then another user can respond whenever. Blogs, Wikipedia, message boards are good examples of these. And these, according to the research, these are more beneficial for low proficiency learners as it allows them more time to plan what they want to say and has a generally lower cognitive demand. And that brings me to the study that I looked at in most detail, which was a study which used asynchronous communication. It used it by having students record blog posts and respond to each other's blog posts using only voice. And the important part of this was that the students were able to find their own content for these blog posts. So what happened was that learners were given a few different resources as starting points, but they could use anything, and they were required to find online articles or any content, any reading content to talk about and make a voice blog about. They were supposed to use critical thinking skills and then consolidate what the overall content was of these articles. So the students were required to record these audio posts using their phone or a computer and then post those onto a program that the researcher created specifically for this project. All of the learners had to create at least 5 blog posts and comment on at least 25 posts. And they could also they were also required to post links to the articles that they referenced in their voice blog posts. So the participants in the study were 74 intermediate EFL learners who were freshmen at a Taiwanese university. Huang sought to ask, number 1, what are the stages that students go through when they produce voice blogs? Number 2, what do students perceive as the strengths of this voice blogging project? And number 3, what do students perceive of this voice blogging project, and what are their suggestions for improving their voice blogging experience? The methodology was mostly qualitative. There were some semi-structured interviews conducted at the end of the project, as well as a questionnaire asking students just to reflect generally on what they thought of the project, also conducted at the end. And then there were 2 Likert scale questionnaires which were given both before the study and after the study, asking about students' opinions of the process. So the results, the average number of posts was 8.08, and the average number of comments was 40.27. So the post was about the requirements, and the comments were much higher than the minimum requirement. And then students reported spending at least, or on average, 47 minutes per post. And as I mentioned, the students could find whatever content they wanted. They could use whatever they decided. These were the topics that were very common. And then to answer those research questions, they found these 4 stages of blogging that students went through: reading to learn, planning and organizing, and speaking and sharing. The perceived strengths of the project by the students were including a URL in the material, and they really liked doing commenting and liking, and separately, they just really liked the social networking aspect of it, getting to know their peers through this project. And the students reported having to record the posts multiple times. They had a few different technical issues. And they also reported spending more time than they wanted to find articles. And then 35% of the students reported that they had trouble with the project because they wanted to be in a place where nobody else would hear them. So they were a little uncomfortable with that. And the implications of this, right? Like, so what? Why am I telling you this? Well, for you, as English as a foreign language teacher or English as a second language teacher, I think this would be really good for EFL contexts where students don't have as much opportunities to speak English, and they need as many opportunities as possible. And the other thing, as she talked about the stages of blogging, this requires students to utilize many different skills beyond just speaking. For example, they're learning how to find information on the internet in English, learning how to consolidate that information and use critical thinking skills to evaluate that information. And it is time intensive for the learners and the teachers. And this study didn't look at the exact gains in learning among students, but I would assume just by nature of having so much extra practice that it's going to help learners advance their competencies in some way. And then try to avoid technological problems. If you expect your students to be able to do this process, you should know how to do this process and model every single step along the way. The learners did not enjoy the technological problems and the usability problems, and they perceived that as a big negative impact on the study. And then I've got some tools here for you to check out. Voxopop is free, and the rest are paid, but they're all content management systems where learners and teachers can post content, and then learners and teachers can respond to that content through voice or pictures or video. Well, thank you for your time, and I hope that you are able to implement a voice blogging project in your future classes. Bye-bye.